I'm having Hangout control fail today. I'm pretty sure I forgot to mute myself, and you may have heard me either talking or humming to myself earlier. So, sorry, viewers.
New intro.
New intro. Nicole talking to herself. All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Learning Space. I am one of your hosts, Nicole Gugliucci, postdoc with the CosmoQuest Citizen Science Project, and I have with me my co-host, Georgia Bracey.
Hello.
And in-house, we have our special guest today, Jess Krim.
Hello.
Hi. So we are currently broadcasting on YouTube and Google+, so you can comment on the YouTube page. It doesn't always update well for me, but go ahead and give it a try, and I will try and follow the comments there. I will also be following the comments on the event pages, the two of them, and also suggest using the Q&A app if you are watching. We've already got a couple people. We have Danica, we have Michael, and we have Nancy all saying hello.
Hey
so feel free to comment, ask questions during the broadcast. We will try and get you from all of those locations. So whatchamacalled? Okay, apparently all they heard was typing and clicking, so that's good. Thank you, Guido. So I do not have a special activity of the week because the main topic is a really cool activity, which I've been teasing on the social medias as there are cupcakes, and we're really sorry that Hangouts hasn't included a share cupcake tool, so we cannot physically share cupcakes with you through the internet, which is very sad.
Or a smell feature.
Or smell. Oh my God, this is killing me. It is sitting here and I can't touch it. But we wanted to hear, so I have not seen this demo, this activity yet, so I'm excited. And Jess is going to take us through this activity, which is Cupcake Geology, and I will share with you guys a PDF, a link to the PDF in a little bit in the comment section. So, Jess, do you want to, I don't know if you want to give the background of the activity first, or if you just want to go through it with us. As if we were your students.
Yeah, and you can tell us a little about yourself too, because she does do this with students. So, yeah, give a little intro wherever you want to.
All right, so I work in the Curriculum and Instruction Department, and I've taught science methods to elementary students, this is one of their favorite activities, and I've revised it a little bit for middle school, and then we can kind of talk about the different ways it can be extended. But basically, it involves cupcakes, and I'll hold it up at each step. But you'll see that the cupcake is brown on the top, and then it's covered with a silver foil wrapper. And that's that way because you're not supposed to be able to see what's underneath the wrapper or underneath the icing, which is brown to represent soil. So basically, students would make observations about the cupcake as if it were the earth, and they wouldn't be able to touch it or cut into it or eat it. Goodness. And they were given these highly technical tools by which they can sample the cupcake to...
we have a science.
So they can sample the cupcake and see what is under the soil. So first they would want to plan, hypothesize, okay, should we go straight down? Should we go at an angle? What's going to give us the best reading on what's underneath the soil? So if we were to do this activity, I mean, we could go ahead and do this.
Do you usually do this with groups, or is it?
I think,
different ways,
groups of 3 at the most, because then they get angry over who gets to split the cupcakes, how many ways to split the cupcakes.
Cupcakes are not that big.
Yeah.
But you can teach fractions.
Yes, they can, then we could extend it into math.
Mine and yours.
Exactly. So usually they get 3 or 4 straws, and one year they used both sides of the straws to sample because it only goes up so far.
Both ends. Okay, so
it's up to you. You can take 4 cores or 8 cores in whatever pattern you want, and you should probably diagram it you know, if you're a student, you could diagram where you're searching for it. So you want to go ahead and
Okay. All right. So
sample?
I'm going to do one just kind of, I have to go right in the center, straight down.
So we're assuming this is a huge chunk of earth that we can't just unwrap and cut
drilling
open.
into the earth.
Drilling straight down as far as we can with our corer.
And then you
And not eat it.
And then we're just going to...
So I have no idea what's in this cupcake, guys. This is science for me.
Wow! That's so much fun. So
Alright,
you
hold it up to camera.
at this point,
lots of those
okay,
eyes.
so
I
here...
decided to go in an angle.
Ooh,
Okay.
all right, so...
I should be keeping track of. I should be sciencing properly by keeping track of this.
Aren't you writing it down? Where's your journal?
I don't know. Do we need to use this?
Yes, you can use that.
Okay. So this is in the PDF I'll share. This is this sheet.
And on the side of that, you can draw your cores and color them. You want to remember the law of superposition. So the older layers are on the bottom, younger layers are on the top.
Okay.
So
I could draw. I would draw this, and I'll kind of show and describe.
Ooh.
I have,
ooh.
of course,
I
the
have a
lovely
thing.
brown on top. Look at
Oh my god!
sort of a purplish layer, which
Oh,
is
I
the
see
largest
it.
layer, and then
Yeah.
yellow,
I have
and
a little purple.
small, sort of pink layer, and then a blue layer.
And it's covered in chocolate. Yeah.
All right, so we're
this is my-
sketching, doing a quick
Yes.
sketch of our core sample.
right.
Oh my god.
And you could talk about the cupcake is about 1.5 inches high, and the core is maybe only 1/2 inch. So you can talk about the layers being compressed through pressure, and then in real life it would be temperature, although there's no temperature change in our cupcake.
Okay. And then you can kind of see that the layers are not, they do not go straight across. There's this little bit of a slant to some of them, which is very interesting. Okay, so
So I'm drawing. Yeah, I have like this little purple blob.
getting all the details in.
I have a purple blob that doesn't go all the way around. So I'm trying to draw that. So I'm making a diagram. Is this teacher? Is this right?
Yes, good, very good.
Okay.
Nice labeling. All right.
And we didn't give you any colored pencils. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I don't have them in my. If I had colored pencils in my desk, I would
And
do
I'm
that
just
properly.
using all purple, so I'm not really doing it right either. That's why I'm labeling. We'll label.
I'm going to take a second sample.
Okay, so now I gotta do it again. And
Turn your core over, or you can get a fresh one, right? Okay.
Yes.
Either way, well.
the show is gonna end with me sucking chocolate out of these straws.
All right, so I'm going to kind of go
Warn our viewers.
here.
All right, now I'm gonna do straight down because I didn't do that before. Oops. I went through the center of the earth.
Oh no.
Oh, it's
So
different.
Yeah.
All right.
Ooh. So this time I got a nice pink layer that does not go all the way across.
I have some pink.
And a little bit of blue, so...
I have some pink crumbs. This is not in focus.
the earth is crummy in parts. All right.
Learn anything. It's that the earth is crummy.
Mm.
Oh,
So you
napkin?
just have to. I know. How can you not eat?
This
I'm
is
being
very
very
tempting,
good,
very
and
tempting.
I'm not eating
So
anything.
this is one of those classroom activities where you can eat the science.
Yes.
Okay.
One of the things your students might find different, so they could either go straight down to do the sample or at an angle, but the technique they use to core the earth could be different. You know, some students I've had spiral their straw as they put it in. Other students suck up in the straw to try and make the layers thicker and not as compressed.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Yes, it works a little bit,
bit.
but it's really hard to suck up a cupcake through a straw.
Challenge accepted.
Now, do you have each student do their own drawing, or do you assign
I think that
roles or
it really
groups at all?
Nancy Graziano wants to know who's bringing the cupcakes to Geek Girl Con next year. I don't know if we can make several hundred cupcakes. for all the kids that we got. But I did do an edible astronomy panel.
Yeah.
Journey to the center of the cupcake. Thank you, Guido.
Ooh.
Thank you. All right. Stop goofing off. I need to do the work.
Get back on task.
I wonder if
sometimes you could have one student be like the recorder or do the drawing, and another student do the coring. But
yes, and it really depends upon the age. You know, like if they can handle the cupcake, then they could maybe have one person do the drawing, or if you want to have them practice their observations in detail, then you would want to have all of them do the drawings.
Okay, great.
It's more different again.
Lesson in details and observation and recording already, all those good things.
So one of the things that we haven't talked about yet that you could talk about with your students is where you've taken the core samples and what you're seeing in the results. So for example, if you're seeing yellow in one area and not in another, what could that mean for the layers and how they're distributed within the Earth?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm confused because I totally put this in at an angle, and they're all straight, which means the
so maybe that means that the layers inside are angled.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to do one more straight down on the edge.
All right, I'm going to do that too. Do it in between my others.
Nicole, do you have any yellow in yours?
I haven't hit any.
Neither have I, but Georgia has yellow.
I have yellow. I have a lot of.
She struck
my
gold.
first core in the middle was a lot of yellow.
Oh, this is great. We have a comment from Adley Mederick. I can't wait to do this with my 7-year-old son. I might have to insist his teacher watches this video. That's fantastic. This is exactly what we want to hear. We want you to share, and we will share the PDFs.
And send us pictures.
Yeah, there you go. Send us pictures.
Core samples.
We'll talk some more about how to set this up after we're done. I'm like serious about this.
So there's a whole. It's not hard to make this, right? We'll talk about that, and you don't obviously tell your students how you set this up before you have them do it, right?
That's true. That's true.
A little bit of secrecy there, but hey.
Yeah. So you could, if you had one student, say Georgia was the student that had the yellow, everybody's going to get jealous because they don't have yellow.
I'm a little jealous right now.
I don't have any yellow. And so that could be sparking a discussion of a layer that gets pinched out. Like some layers that come in and they're not evident in all the strat columns. Okay. No yellow, Nicole.
I'm still not getting yellow.
Yeah, me neither.
So as the groups are doing this, you probably have students like holding up their core sample and look what I got. So the interplay, I guess, between the groups is got to be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then within the group itself, there's probably some argument about what's going on.
Now I have to map because I'm losing track. I have to map from the top of the cupcake which one's which.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of arguments within the group about where to core and how to go about it, especially if you tell them they can only take 4. Or if you only give them maybe 2 straws and they have to use both sides. So then the next part of this, once you have 4 cores, is to predict what you think your cupcake looks like. And on the other side of this page,
all right, this has got to be the hard part. Let's see.
Maybe
I just have a blank.
Oh, okay. So on this document, you've got a grid, so you can draw what you think the cupcake looks like based upon your cores and the location of where your cores are.
Okay, excellent.
So this is the most intense part when students do this because it takes a while to think about where did I take the cores and what does that mean as far as the cross-section.
Yes, so this is a cross-section, right? And we're measuring in centimeters.
I think I did it wrong.
I don't have rulers.
Yes, and I don't. Oh, I have a ruler.
Okay, I made a smiley face.
I have a ruler.
I didn't do them all in the same plane. Was that wrong?
It's a happy face.
It's a happy face.
Fantastic.
Oh my God.
It's a constellation.
But I have to decide where I'm gonna cut it.
Yes, that's
and then draw that.
Yes.
Shit.
Okay, right. So
it if you have 3 in a line, you could go along that line because that's
Yes,
going to give you
so
a lot
actually,
of.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm
remember
gonna do.
that now. So do you tell them that in advance, or do you just say at this point, pick like 3 that you can sort of line up
Yeah, it really
to
depends
imagine your
upon,
cross section?
it depends upon their level of
Okay.
understanding and tolerance for inquiry and ambiguity.
Hmm.
Because if they need more direction, then you can provide them.
I'm sciencing right here.
It's great. Okay.
Alright, so the cupcake's about 5 centimeters.
I know.
Or 6.
How tall is my cupcake?
How tall is my cupcake?
Is it? It's about 5.
I hope you guys are enjoying us
Power of estimation here.
do with science.
Centimeters.
Okay, so that's the top.
And then
We went through.
diameter, cupcake diameter,
Oh.
7, at least at the top, near the top.
6-ish.
It's
a bit small on this grid. Alright. And then I made one. I know this is so exciting for you guys.
Oh, the diameter of the base of the cupcake.
We've got cupcakes.
Come on, 5.
Oh, see, I don't know what orientation it went in.
Who was supposed to be recording that information?
I missed the orientation because I don't know where the purple. All right, fine.
Oh well, let's see. All right, so
See, there's a fail in my data collection.
wow. So this is really hard. So do students get frustrated at this point at all, or
Yeah, they could.
again, depending on the age?
Yeah. And if they, I mean, if your students are used to doing inquiry activities, then they're going to get less frustrated, I think. But if they
Yeah, so what are the basic, I'm just going to give you a quiz here, basic differences between an inquiry-based activity and maybe a more traditional? Like hopefully what are your students maybe kind of used to?
Well, I would hope that they're used to at least structured inquiry. So you could have, cookbook activities where the instructions are do this step and then do that step.
Yeah.
For example, that's kind of what I was doing with you. Okay, first we're going to do this step and then that step. If you were doing something that is less structured, you could just give them the cupcake and say, you can't eat it, you can't open it, you figure it out. That's going to cause a lot of frustration, I think.
Okay.
But
Also,
also
it's
remember,
too open, right?
we are way more detail-oriented, I think, than some students in how we're performing this.
And yet I still messed up the orientation.
Just kind of go for it. Yeah. Okay.
And I think it's a valuable lesson to learn about the scientific process itself is that you can take all your data and then get to the analysis step and realize, oh man, I should have done X.
Right.
And so you have a weakness in your analysis because of that. Like I had to make an estimate of my orientation. All right.
I don't know.
Oh, yes, this would be much prettier with colored pencils.
Blue layer at the bottom.
But I think there's blue at the bottom, there's pink, and then there's a purple inclusion.
I have a lot of yellow in the middle.
Is inclusion a geology word?
You could, yeah, I think so.
It's been a long time.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time since I've taken a geology class.
And then, okay, and what? And I've got some pink. Over here.
Tasty. Let me check the comments.
Okay. So we're going through a lot of processes, which is great, and a lot of skills.
Nancy Graziano wants to know, have you considered doing this with a cupcake filled with pudding?
Oh, like lava.
Like lava. I don't know if that would hold.
I have not. I mean, you could certainly suck it up into the straw easier, right, than the cupcake.
If you were lucky enough to hit that pool with your core. Yeah.
One thing I've thought about is putting maybe like little chocolate chips in there. And actually, Dr. Marlette came up with this idea that you could charge students for straws in the story that here's your tools, and you have limited resources and limited funds, and how are you going to design a way to get to the
optimizing,
which would be the chocolate chip cookie.
Great. So it's more of a design project, which would be fun. Yeah, there are other activities that are kind of mining, various versions of mining activities where you try to get out a chocolate chip with certain tools. Yeah, so lots of good variations. So I really want to slice open my cupcake at this point. I don't know if I'm quite ready.
We can do the reveal?
All right.
Add a little color to my diagram here just to make it.
I don't have any color. I have labels.
My diagram will be better.
Mine looks like this.
So again, the PDF with the instructions on how this activity is done in the classroom, along with this worksheet that I keep waving proudly, is the PDF. I put the link. It's in my public Dropbox. I put a link on the event pages and as a comment on the YouTube stream. So you guys should be able to download the PDF from there and take a look at it while we continue. And I'm going to cut into my cupcake. So now we've done the core samples. Now we're imagining a road cut, right, into the side of a mountain or whatever, because that's when you get to actually see the layers. I'm going to be so wrong. It's going to be hilarious.
Well, you have a syncline in yours. That is fantastic.
Ooh, all right, so here's
crumbs.
Ooh, look at that. All right, here's the...
Oh!
It's beautiful. Here's my cross section.
Oh, I didn't peel it.
So Jess just threw out a great term. What's a syncline?
That is when the layers that were originally horizontal got metamorphosed and they sink down, so it's a syncline. The reverse of that would be the anticline, and when the rock layers get pushed, that's one result.
Okay.
Would you like to eat it?
This is amazing. So the first thing I noticed is that I thought I had this little blue layer at the bottom, and actually, according to where I cut it, like blue is like the biggest part.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, all right.
It's mine. It's crumbling apart. Can you see it?
Yeah.
It's also so it's not. It's I think it's the. Is it a syncline also? Because it's kind of down. Kind of But I was almost right with the purple thing being there, except it goes across the whole top of the cupcake, and I didn't get that because I missed it somehow. I don't know how.
Amazing.
But that was pretty close. Blue on the bottom, pink, and then the purple just kind of sinks itself in there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there we go. Oh my God.
So then you must give your students time to eat.
Then they get to eat.
Yay. All right. So, let's talk about So remember, you guys can ask us any questions or leave any comments on the Q&A app or on the event pages or probably on YouTube. Sounds like we've already got one person sold on wanting to do this activity with their kid and showing it to their teacher. So yay. Can you give us a little bit of instruction on how you make these cupcakes in the first place?
Yes, absolutely. Basically, you get white food or white cake, just the regular white cake, and you mix it up like usual and separate it into 4 containers and color them with pretty colors. I think we have a picture of me mixing the colors in. I don't know if we could pan to that.
I'm showing it on my screen. Is this the one?
Hey,
yes.
There it is.
Okay.
So you basically just mix the colors into whatever vibrancy you want and then layer them in the cupcake pans. There's another photo that has a bunch of cupcakes in the pan, and it's as yes, there it is. So I layered blue on the bottom of all of them, and then the ones in the middle, you'll see I did the red and then the green and then the purple, but the ones on the outside only had blue, red, and purple.
Okay. So when you compare the whole class,
yes,
can you put it back at you, or say where each one came from in the pan?
Yes, and how to do that, you could even put numbers at the bottom of the pan so that when they pull them out, they can see where they're located. That is something that you can refer back to, because if they are taken from a certain area, how we know what plates moved where is by the rock layers. So you could relate this back to, what you could even mix those up, and then you could ask students what order do they go in based upon what layers are similar, what cupcakes or what continents were originally part of the same landmass. So, for example, you could have that be the original landmass of, they had the green in there. So that could kind of relate back to, where we find the shells and the fossils in the rock layers, and we can tell what continents were next to each other.
Okay.
Awesome.
So it's just white cake mixed with food coloring.
Yep, that's
to
it.
The layers. Awesome, awesome. That's excellent. Have you run in? Do you do this with the education majors here?
I have in the past. Right now, I'm teaching the secondary students, so I don't get to do it a lot.
Okay.
But it's one of my favorite activities.
Do you have suggestions? Because I know I can imagine teachers having dietary restrictions to worry about with their students.
One group of teachers that I showed this to, they were super excited and they wanted to do it with their students, and they were student teaching. They made the cupcakes and then they brought them in, and they were told by the school that it wasn't in a package, so they couldn't use it in the school. So that was disappointing for them. But I think that if you're a teacher and you're wanting to do this, you could, find out what dietary restrictions your students have, allergies and whatnot. Food coloring, if they're allergic to food coloring, they certainly wouldn't want to eat this like that.
Right. Okay, another option.
Any other recipes or ways to make these at all? Someone will have to experiment with that.
Yes. Yeah, it's open for many different ways of doing it. That's one of the things I like best about this, because, it's an activity that can be adapted many different ways. As I was going through the lesson plan for this, I was putting different next-gen standards in there, cross-cutting concepts, and it doesn't matter. The cupcake's great. It's special, right? But it really matters what you do with it, and what you decide to focus on. And something like this is adaptable to pretty much anything.
Okay. Nancy Graziano also suggested, if doing a big group activity, having a sheet cake. Having them all go through a sheet cake is one big activity.
That is fantastic.
That might make it more complicated.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, wonderful.
Oh, the link I put may not work for some people because I put HTTPS, so I'll copy that. So if you're having trouble getting the PDF, let us know in the comments. I'll try the other link. Awesome. So can you tell us, so we've talked about the NGSS, the different standards here before. Can you tell us a little bit about what standards this covers and how this fits into the classroom?
Yes. So I was looking through them, and the ones that I think most immediately come to mind with the next gen standards are the middle school. There's one that's History of the Planet Earth, and there's 2 bullets under that, but the one that talks about the geologic timescale being interpreted from rock strata, it's not an absolute scale, it's a relative scale, so you would figure out, what layers are older than what other layers. And then the other core idea would be the plate tectonics and the large-scale system interaction. So what I was saying about the middle cupcakes only had the green in them, so then you could talk to students about, figure out where they were originally. And cross-cutting concepts, there's systems and system models. Of course, this is a model of the Earth. There's patterns, predictable patterns that students would see. And the scale, proportion, and quantity. You could talk about, you could actually then turn this into, okay, if this is your model of the Earth and it's 1.5 inches high, what does that mean? Actually, you could take the compression from the cupcake to the core, and you could figure out the ratio of, the compression rate. So you could kind of compare that to soil being compressed into rock layers. And then with science and engineering practices, you've got asking questions, using models, again, analyzing, interpreting data, planning and carrying out investigations. I mean, this is why I like it so much, because it reaches so many different science and engineering practices. You can have students engage in an argument from evidence. You know, you could ask them, you know, if green was a layer that had oil in it, should we drill for it? Where should we drill for it? And you can get into the ethical conversation about, do we even drill?
Yeah.
You could have students, you know, do a presentation of what their group found, and then they could come back together again and, you know, discuss the results from all the groups and try and come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of possibilities. You know, so you mentioned, you know, the ethical aspects and, you know, should we drill or not drill? I could see that coming together kind of with the sheet cake idea. So you could have some land features, and maybe in one corner, you know, you've got some people living over here, and then you've got a river or a stream over here, and there's a mountain. Make a whole landscape cake.
Little farm animal.
Right. If you really get into it, make a landscape cake, and then you know, but you know, there's some core samples and some, you know, possible minerals and oil and things underneath the surface. And so, yeah, where do you mine, where do you drill, and what are the ethical implications of that? And then if you decide to go ahead, then who do you have to convince to let you, you know, go ahead and drill? And so you could just go totally nuts and take this to the limit. It's really fun.
I'm imagining like little army men all over it.
Get your action figures
little
out.
Monopoly houses.
So that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, so you do have them kind of come together and do a presentation, usually at the end, or share, at least kind of share out what the groups.
Yes, and you know, you could make this last for days. You know, it just depends upon what you want to focus on.
5
and
days
what
of
you want to
cupcakes.
do.
Yes.
Yeah, 5 days of cupcakes. Monday, cupcakes. Tuesday, cupcakes.
Wednesday, sheet cake. Thursday. Yes.
The other thing that this really allows students to do is, at a more basic or elementary levels, to practice the nature of science and those ideas. You know, making observations, hypothesis, you know, understanding that you analyze data in the nature of science, and just, you know, basic practices like that. So
yeah, and you've got on like your cover sheet here is scientific dispositions also, which I think are somewhat related to the nature of science and the practices, but maybe are a little different. So you want to kind of share a few of those, because people don't always think about that, I don't think.
Right. So, you know, the dispositions or values is what students find important and what they value, or what we want them to value as science students. So, you know, at the elementary level, a disposition could be valuing others' opinions, you know, and just basically being nice to each other in a group and working as a team. You could give different people a job to do. You know, you could have the person who takes the core sample. You could have the person who cuts the cross section. You could be you could have the note taker. You know, assign jobs within the group. You could have the illustrator. You could also, let's see, other dispositions. Valuing group work as a way to solve problems. You know, when you're middle school or elementary school, that's the skill you need. Also, a gained appreciation for exploring the Earth's layers. You know, like people, when I talk to them about, or students, sometimes you talk to them about rocks. Rocks are stupid, you know, and this is a good way for them to understand. You know, this could actually even be an introductory lesson to real data, or, well, more. When I say real data, I mean, you know, photographs of road cuts or actual rock samples, rather than CUPCAKES modeling what you're trying to get them to do. If you introduce an activity like this, whether it's middle school or high school, that at least gets them engaged, you know. We don't want them eating the rock samples, but if they could think about the cupcake and what it was like when they explored, and you know, it could be an activity that really gets them engaged and carries them throughout a unit.
Yeah, absolutely. You can keep making connections back to that first, you know, activity that introduced them to the concept, and they'll carry that idea, you know, those ideas through.
I have a question. Being a fairly recent transplant to this area, do students have a lot of road cuts in southern Illinois that they could see this? Because I compared in my mind to the Delaware Water Gap in Pennsylvania, which is a huge, gorgeous road cut. Do they even have? Is there something nearby,
Well, when I
or is
drive
it not?
to St. Louis, there are small road cuts, and when
Okay.
you get into southern Missouri, there are some larger road cuts. I think that they would know at least what they are, but
Okay.
not maybe have the appreciation for the larger, like, insane road cuts that you can see in some places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's some that are probably more in the very, very south part of the state. It's just so darn flat in the central part,
Right.
and northwest, where the glacier didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more. It is in Missouri, even just a short ways away. It's much more impressive. And then I'm thinking of like Kentucky and. Oh, there's other places where, yeah, it's really just incredibly impressive, the layering you see in the road cuts. So, so other places may be a little more prevalent than Illinois. But so, what else do we have? Let's see. I was going to ask.
We have a comment from Nancy
Okay.
about can you also, or have you used, or could you use sand art as another way of demonstrating either this core sample process or the idea of the layers of rocks?
Yes.
That's an interesting idea.
Yes, absolutely. I recently did an ice core activity, which is similar to this. I did the ice core activity for the Science Olympiad, and as a precursor to that, we had sand core columns.
Okay.
So that they could kind of look at that. So it works.
Great.
Absolutely, it's a great idea.
Okay. And then you have this kind of set up on the sheet using the 5 E's, which we were talking about a little bit before the show. And it's one way to sort of kind of organize this lesson. And it's one, if you're familiar with our like Terra Luna and our Investigate, CosmoQuest units, we use the 5 E's also, but it's not the way it has to be done necessarily at all. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how they could take this 5E structure and just sort of adapt it to, your own particular classroom and your own particular teaching style.
So I think the good thing about the 5Es is that it gives you so many different ways to go. I mean, if you think about the way you can expand the activity or extend the activity, it gives you a lot of different choices, as well as reminding you to engage the students somehow, rather than not just starting off by, well, I guess if you gave them a cupcake, that would be pretty engaging. But
and it's done. There you go.
Right. So in this one, on the lesson plan, it talks about, asking preliminary questions. And I would ask these questions way before I got the cupcakes out. I would even keep them covered and in a drawer or covered somewhere because they can smell them.
Smell, tight container.
Also very engaging.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the first E is engage, and it's all about getting the student their attention and their focus and activating any knowledge, which they all have some sort of knowledge about the topic from their own experience. So getting all that kind of ready to go.
Right, like and you could use it as a pre-assessment, and then the exploring part is when they actually get the cupcake and look at it and speculate about what's in it, talk about how they're going to make the core samples, if they're going to go straight or diagonal. And the next part, explain, is actually when they get to cut it in half. So then they are, able to understand, or you're explaining to them, but actually they're kind of explaining to themselves.
And then that gets us to the last two E's.
So
elaborate.
The elaborate, I put several ideas. I went through this today, and the first one, discuss how heat and pressure can make rocks that are originally horizontal bend and fold, into a syncline or anticline, which, by the way, I didn't really layer them in a syncline or anticline. That's the oven, so if you layer them flat, the oven just kind of does its own magic. And I think, the convection of it makes the bottom layer kind of squeeze up along the sides.
Yeah.
And
that was amazing to me. I know, because I've seen parts of this activity before, and I've seen people cut the cupcakes open, and it's so artistic almost. It's just beautiful what you see, and it's all curvy. And I just thought, how in the world do you make the cupcake do that?
It's let the heat of the center of the earth do it for you.
You don't have to worry about it. It just does it. So just bake the cupcake and don't worry about it. So it's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. You can even play with it and maybe put color on one side and not the others. Maybe do half and half and see what happens there. You could also, I have planned cupcakes that'll tell a story. Like we talked about, the middle layer or the middle cupcakes have the green in them. Have students make evidence-based arguments about what continents or cupcakes were part of the same landmass. I think it's great because it attracts students because it's chocolatey and good, but also there's just so many different things you could do with this. And like I said before, communicating their findings, like presenting a lab report. There's just a lot.
Yeah, it's fun. So you can just get really creative. Very creative.
And then the other ideas that we came up with was the sheet cake with the. I think that is really a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be like four different points on Elaborate, and then you could have students. Not just on here it says they write down what they learned about the Earth from this process, but you could also get into there with self-assessment.
Evaluation.
Nicole said something about this in the beginning where she said, you finish your cupcake and you think, oh, I should have done it this way or that way. You could then have them do one more and see if they could be more accurate. The last thing I was thinking is with repeated coring brings greater statistical reliability that you're going to get a more accurate picture of what's inside. So that's something you could certainly talk to your students about.
Until your cupcake becomes geologically unstable.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And you could even, the data from, say if you teach 5 classes of this, you could put the data from the first class up on, you could even make a huge map of say you have 5 classes, you could have 5 sheet cakes, one for each class, and they could all be located on different parts of the globe. And then you could have the data from your first class, and it would be like a puzzle where they're putting all the pieces together, and then they solve it as 5 different class periods.
Nice.
Yeah, and then you could do plate tectonics, Nancy says. You could have, if they're decorating the top, make it, put things around it so it looks like a certain civilization. You got your social studies link, you can get your art link. You can, if you're covering multiple subjects anyway, you can really link them together that way.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I already ate half of a cupcake while I was screen sharing. So you didn't have to see me eating.
Those pictures were up there for a long time.
That's why they were there for a long time. Have you had any surprises or maybe things to watch out for when doing this? Something that went wrong that you want to be like, don't do, this beware, this might happen.
I have used sprinkles, like green sprinkles on top of the brown soil to make grass, you know, and those kind of, when you core it, they get jammed down into the pink and the yellow, so it gives a false reading because the sprinkles are so tiny. They'll go in there. I think also chocolate, maybe students don't like, some of them don't like chocolate, or sometimes what they'll try and do is they'll try and core through the side foil, and it doesn't work really well. Or, just simple grasping, like sometimes they squeeze too hard and mash it. But that's pretty much it. Usually, it's very foolproof. You just layer the cupcakes and then stick it in the oven.
Have you tried with, I don't know, these are probably pretty standard size straws. I don't know if I've seen smaller ones that are not clear, So I don't know if a
coffee
smaller
straws.
or a larger one would give you as good a result
I
as
think
this if you tried.
a larger one might be good. It wouldn't push the
Interesting to try
cupcake down
that.
too much, but a smaller one would probably
Just
not give you.
not do it.
It would probably just mash it down. But the other thing you want to make sure is you have clear straws, because some straws are maybe they're white with stripes on them or something.
I'm laughing at this comment from Michael Mayer. Could you pump in cream to do fracking? You could really go into the hot topic policy debates by trying to do
You
that.
make the holes with the cores and then
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, you could model that with your sheet cake in your town and your river and everything. Yeah.
There you go.
What are the implications?
If you do the sheet cake, it would be important to bake it in not a glass container, because then you'll be able to see the layers on the side.
Right.
Or, I guess if you wanted to see the layers on the side, you could certainly do that.
Yeah, you could wrap I guess you could try and wrap it in foil and take the foil off at the end to reveal.
Yeah.
But what you see on the outside is no guarantee of what
That's
will
true.
be
That's true.
going on in the center, so that could
Some
even
of
be
it-
misleading and fool them
Yeah.
a little bit.
Like here, the blue went up and then the red kind of went over.
It really
Not
is
always.
amazing that these just don't bake up in horizontal layers. I'm amazed that they get so smooth.
And my blue at the bottom gets kind of like greenish because the heat, I guess, changes the color too. So you could even have a little bit of metamorphosis happening right there at the edge.
Nice.
Ah, cool. All right, so thank you guys for your questions and comments. Keep sending them in. I think most people are using the Q&A app, but I've also posted the links on the event page. Do you have any other, maybe any favorite moment, something really awesome that happened while doing some really big aha moment that a student had?
They just get so excited when they get to see the inside of the cupcake, and I think it sounds strange, but it's not just students that get excited. I did this activity when I came for my interview here, and I did the activity with all of the faculty peers. They were excited.
Oh my gosh!
They got excited too. I think there's just something about seeing the colors, and it just makes sense.
It was a new activity for them? Had
I
anybody
guess.
seen it?
I don't think it was just the cupcakes.
Yeah.
So, yep, but yeah.
Cool. All right, so we're getting close to an hour. I'm going to wrap up with some announcements. We'll check for any last comments and questions from you guys. Today's Wednesday, which means the next hangout is Friday. So Friday is the weekly space hangout. Fraser Kane and a group of astronomy journalists wrap up the news and space astronomy news of the week. That's at noon Pacific on Friday. That's weekly space hangout. The virtual star party is Sunday night, either 6 or 6:30 Pacific. Sorry, 6:30 or 7 Pacific. It's probably getting later now that we're past the winter solstice. Yeah, that is where a virtual star party where we have several astronomers, amateur astronomers, who hook up their amazing telescopes to webcams and image software so that you could get live views of the sky and maybe or maybe not discover a supernova. And then Monday at noon Pacific, Fraser and Pamela record Astronomy Cast. And then that comes back around to Wednesday for Learning Space, and I haven't looked at the schedule to see who's next. But I know it's on our website.
Sorry. Ooh.
Oh, I think we're talking about how to... Oh, right. We're talking with a couple of the bloggers from SciStarter about how to do citizen science, bring citizen science into the classroom. So different ways of bringing different kinds of citizen science projects in the classroom, how teachers have done this already, and could keep giving us suggestions on how to do that better. And I think they're also working to attach a lot of the different citizen science projects out there available through websites like SciStarter to the standards, to the NGSS standards. So that's going to be a really useful resource for teachers. So that's next week on Learning Space, next Wednesday. I'm going to go through the comments once more. I think this is great. Nancy, the shit cake idea. I think we've expanded the activity just by having this discussion. So yeah, if you guys do this activity with your students or with your kids or with your interviewing team, you should take pictures and send it to us at educate@cosmoquest.org, because that would make me really happy. Or post it on social media and tag CosmoQuest.
You could post them on the blog. If we could.
Oh yeah, we could put them on the
That would
education
be
blog.
fun.
We should totally. Yeah, I will definitely be blogging about this activity, or maybe if Jess wants to write a guest post. this will show up on the blog, so you guys could do this as well. Which means I should take a picture of the other half of my cupcake before I eat it. That's what we're gonna try and do. So thank you guys, everyone, for joining and for participating and for extending this activity with your ideas. I can't wait to see all of the geology cakes that come out of this activity. And thank you, Jess, for bringing this and doing this with us and making
Thanks for
cupcakes
having
for
me.
us.
Thank you very much. It was
All right.
excellent.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
That's so much fun. So you
hold up to camera.
at this point.
lots of those
Okay,
jobs.
so
I
here.
decided to go in an angle. Okay.
All right, so
Wait, I should be keeping track of. I should be sciencing properly by keeping track of this.
aren't you writing it down? Where's your journal?
I don't know. Do we need to use this?
Yes, you can use that.
Okay. So this isn't the PDF I'll share. This is this sheet.
And on the side of that, you can draw your cores and color them. You want to remember the law of superposition. So the older layers are on the bottom, younger layers are on the top.
Okay.
So
I could draw. I would draw this, and I'll kind of show and describe.
Ooh,
I have, of course, the
I have a
lovely
thing.
brown on top. Look
Oh
at
my god! Oh my god!
sort of a purplish layer, which
Oh,
is
I
the
see
largest
it.
layer, and then
Yeah.
yellow,
I have
and
a little purple.
sort of pink layer, and then a blue layer.
And it's covered in chocolate. Yeah.
All right, so we're
this was my-
doing a quick
Yes.
sketch of our core sample.
right.
Oh my god.
And you could talk about the cupcake is about 1.5 inches high, and the core is maybe only 1/2 inch. So you can talk about the layers being compressed through pressure, and then in real life it would be underneath the soil. So if we were to do this activity, I mean, we could go ahead and do this.
Do you usually do this with groups, or is it?
I
Can
think,
go different ways.
Groups
that
of
way?
3 at the most, because then they get angry over who gets to split the cupcakes, how many ways to split the cupcakes.
Cupcakes are not that big.
Yeah.
But you can teach fractions.
Yes, they could, then we could extend it into math.
Mine and yours.
Exactly.
That's the fraction.
So they have usually they get 3 or 4 straws, and one year they used both sides of the straws to sample because it only goes up so far.
Both
You'll
ends.
see.
Okay, so
So it's up
and a
to you.
bottom
You can take
core.
4 cores or 8 cores in whatever pattern you want. And you should probably diagram it. If you're a student, you could diagram where you're searching for it. So you want to go ahead and
Okay. All right. So
sample?
I'm going to do one just kind of, I have to go right in the center, straight down.
So we're assuming this is a huge chunk of earth that we can't just unwrap and cut
drilling
open.
into the earth.
Drilling straight down as far as we can with our corer.
And then you
And not eat it.
And then we're just going to...
So I have no idea what's in this cupcake, guys. This is science for me.
Wow!
I'm having Hangout control fail today. I'm pretty sure I forgot to mute myself, and you may have heard me either talking or humming to myself earlier. So sorry, viewers.
New intro.
New intro. Nicole talking to herself. All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Learning Space. I am one of your hosts, Nicole Gugliucci, postdoc with the CosmoQuest Citizen Science Project, and I have with me my co-host, Georgia Bracey.
Hello.
And in-house, we have our special guest today, Jess Krim.
Hello.
Hi. So we are currently broadcasting on YouTube and Google+, so you can comment on the YouTube page, doesn't always update well for me, but go ahead and give it a try, and I will try and follow the comments there. I will also be following the comments on the event pages, the two of them, and also suggest using the Q&A app if you are watching. We've already got a couple people. We have Danica, we have Michael, and we have Nancy all saying hello.
Hey
so feel free to comment, ask questions during the broadcast. We will try and get you from all of those locations. So
and I've revised it a little bit for middle school, and then we can kind of talk about the different ways it can be extended. But basically, it involves cupcakes, and I'll hold it up at each step. But you'll see that the cupcake is brown on the top, and then it's covered with a silver foil wrapper. And that's that way because you're not supposed to be able to see what's underneath the wrapper or underneath the icing, which is brown to represent soil. So basically, students would make observations about the cupcake as if it were the earth, and they wouldn't be able to touch it or cut into it or eat it. Goodness. And they were given these highly technical tools by which they can sample the cupcake to...
we have a science.
So they can sample the cupcake and see what is under the soil. So first they would want to plan, hypothesize, okay, should we go straight down? Should we go at an angle? What's going to give us the best reading on what's
whatchamacalled? Okay, apparently all they heard was typing and clicking, so that's good. Thank you, Guido. So I do not have a special activity of the week because the main topic is a really cool activity, which I've been teasing on the social medias as there are cupcakes, and we're really sorry that Hangouts hasn't included a share cupcake tool, so we cannot physically share cupcakes with you through the internet, which is very sad.
Or a smell feature.
Or smell. Oh my God, this is killing me. It is sitting here and I can't touch it. But we wanted to hear, so I have not seen this demo, this activity yet, so I'm excited. And Jess is going to take us through this activity, which is Cupcake Geology, and I will share with you guys a PDF, a link to the PDF in a little bit in the comment section. So, Jess, do you want to, I don't know if you want to give the background of the activity first, or if you just want to go through it with us. As if we were your students.
Yeah, and you can tell us a little about yourself too, because she does do this with students. So, yeah, give a little intro for everyone.
All right, so I work in the Curriculum and Instruction Department, and I've taught science methods to elementary students, this is one of their favorite activities.